So I actually grew up in Orange County. I grew up in Fountain Valley, went to high school in Huntington Beach. I earned a scholarship to Whittier College. It's about 40 minutes from here. And I actually came in as a physical therapy pre-major, as a physical education major, because I thought, well, when I was growing up, I played a lot of sports. I played basketball, ran track, and I sprained my ankle, and I had to go to the physical therapist. And when I realized, well, you know, I'm not going to be playing in the NBA, my dream, I said, well, what can I do to kind of be around the athletes? Because I really enjoyed being with the athletes in athletics. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to try physical therapy. And I took my first class in college. It was called Movement Anatomy. And it was the most boring class I ever took in my life. And I said, forget this. I am switching majors, like a lot of college students, right? So, you know, I talked to my advisor, and she said, I don't know about business. I said, all right, business sounds interesting to me. So I switched majors, and at that time, the .com that's the wave. And everyone said, by the time you're out of school, you're going to have a job. Even if you work as a secretary, you're going to be like one of these millionaire secretaries. I said, all right, you know, I'm just can't wait to get out of school. And then, you know, that's what happens, right? My senior year, bubble burst. And I really had to think, you know, to myself, what am I going to do? I really had no job prospects coming out. And my dad suggested to me, well, why don't you go to law school? And I probably went for the worst reason possible. And if you guys are thinking about law school or advising other people to go to law school because the economy is bad, don't go because the economy is bad. That is the worst reason. But I believe all of us have a journey that God put us through, put us in this chair, and perhaps God put me in that position to bring me right here in front of you guys. Okay? So I ended up going to law school, and when people would ask me in college, like, what are you going to practice in? I said, you know, I've really developed this passion for business. I was a business administration major, and we studied, you know, all the big companies, but I was really interested in the entrepreneur. And I said, when people would ask me, hey, I'm going to focus my practice on small business law, because I know there's a lot of people out there who, they're going to need help in running their companies. I'd like to be part of that. So, you know, ended up going to law school and earned a scholarship there, knock on wood, passed on the first time, and, you know, worked for a couple of different firms doing some intellectual property, civil litigation, small business law, and some healthcare law. And about 2 years ago, I opened up my own practice because that was one of my dreams. Let me kind of tell you a little story I had a while back. My sink was leaking, and I'm a do-it-yourself kind of guy, like most men, right? You know, all right, the sink's leaking, and you know, underneath the sink too, where you turn the valve, that was leaking too. So I had the top, the faucet dripping, and the bottom of the sink dripping, and you know, I had put the cup there, try to hold it off, and right, you guys know what I'm talking about. But at one point, like, I gotta get this fixed, and you know, all right, bust out my wrench, go to the Home Depot, grab some washers. All right, let's go. All right, and I probably worked on the thing for about 2 hours. Still, and I actually had this vision. I had this vision of me on the phone like this, calling the plumber with water everywhere. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna call somebody and come down and fix it because this is not worth my time. And so I ended up calling somebody. Called the plumber, came out, spent about 10 minutes. Yeah, I think it was about 10 minutes, right? Billed me on the spot, and that day really changed how I thought about, as an entrepreneur, how I should be spending my time and how I should be spending my money. Okay? So let's know why you need to know small business law. What's the term? Ignorance is no excuse. I don't know who said that, but I always hear that ignorance is no excuse to the law. But you know, one of the biggest reasons to know small business law or business law in general is you got to protect your business. You know, what if you run a nonprofit corporation and someone's dropping off some clothes for your company, and someone slips and falls on the sidewalk, and they sue you? You know, have you established a nonprofit? Do you have insurance for that, right? Or what if you have a contract with a vendor, or you need to actually collect on a client? Let's say you have a client, they're not paying you, and you need to sue them, but you don't have attorney's fees clause in your contract. So even if you sue them to get money, you're out the money that you have to pay an attorney to go get it, right? So these are kind of some of the scenarios that my clients go through, and I try to educate them as far as what they really need to know about small business law. So, second thing is protect your personal assets, right? One of the biggest selling points about LLCs, corporations, is protect your personal assets. You don't want to have your $1 million cash nest egg be exposed to the liabilities of your company, right? Because you've worked so hard for it, and one little mistake or negligence really can turn your world upside down, okay? The second thing is you can use the law to grow your business and make more money. What did Mel say earlier about knowing commercial law and how it can use it to make more money? If you know the law or have a trusted advisor, trusted legal advisor, in your corner, and you can use the law to your advantage and have them navigate together, which new markets you guys can get into, which new products you guys can bring to the market. Another thing is attorneys can be great resources. I was at the Entrepreneur Magazine conference in October in Long Beach, and Scott Gerber was there, and his presentation was raising money, and part of the presentation was where can you go find more money? He says, go to your attorney. They're a great resource to find everything, or most things. I don't want to say everything, because I don't know everything in the world, but most things, So, not only can the attorney be your legal advisor, but they can be an excellent resource for most of the things they need for your business. There's a lot of types of attorneys, like we talked about earlier, right? The guy on the left here, right? Lionel Hutz on The Simpsons. He does everything. Right. Personal injury. They were what we call general practitioners. They're still around. You don't see a lot of them, but they're still around. They practice what's called front door law or toaster law. Front door, anything that walks into the front door, or toaster law, anything that pops up. Those type of guys. There's lots of types of attorneys. Personal injury, like Larry H. Parker, business law, intellectual property, patent attorney, bankruptcy attorney. So there's a breadth of them, and for an area of law, you can find a person who focuses or specializes in it. Okay. So what other type of contracts should a small business have? If you have employees, you definitely should have an employment contract. One of my first jobs coming out of law school, it was for a business law firm, made me sign an employment law contract. Confidentiality clause inside, rules and regulations, how I should be conducting myself. So even though you're a sole proprietor now, you should be really building your business so when you get those employees, you'll be aware of the consequences of termination, and if you have to pay unemployment, things like that. Also, independent contractor agreements. If you are doing work for other people, if they don't have the contract, you should be having your own contracts and laying out, what are my payment terms, attorney's fees clause, like I talked about, what exactly type of work I'm bringing to the table. On the flip side, if you're hiring independent contractors, especially for you, with your software business, you're probably going to hire a lot of designers, outside artists, and you're going to want those types of contracts in place so you know who's going to own the IP, how they're going to get compensated, and like venue, if there's a dispute, where are you going to bring that dispute in? Orange County, LA County, wherever you do business in. Okay. If you have a corporation, you will want to have a buy-sell agreement, especially if you have two partners or two shareholders. You need a buy-sell agreement. What happens if one shareholder dies? What's the procedure for that? How much are you going to pay out for his share? Exactly. How do you calculate it? Who can buy it? Do you have the right of first refusal? For LLCs, you definitely should have an operating agreement. It's very similar to the corporations. LLCs do explain what are the procedures of the company, who's who's going to buy out at what price. It's basically the equivalent of a buy-sell agreement. Partnerships definitely have agreements, right? Mel knows. Definitely have an agreement because you don't want to guess and you don't want to rely on people's goodness. Yeah. Unfortunately, I know we all want to partner up with our friends because we trust them, but contracts and law, it's like in case stuff happens, like insurance, right? You kind of don't want to pay for it, and it's kind of expensive, but you're freaking pleased when you have it there and it's behind your back, right? If you have some sort of product or idea, you might want a non-disclosure agreement, right? To protect you so they don't see your business. Now, I actually got this question. Now, if someone consults with me and they have an idea, whether they hire me or any other attorney, the attorney's bound by attorney confidentiality. So I can't go out and capitalize on your business. That's against the rules, and I might lose my license for that. So just be assured, if you're kind of afraid of going to an attorney because they might see your business, they are bound by attorney-client confidentiality, whether you hire them or not. Okay. Licensing agreements. If you want to print jerseys for the NFL, the NBA, they'll probably have a huge license agreement because they really gotta protect their stuff. But on the flip side, if you have artwork that is good for an iPhone app that you want to use, right? And you're the artist that doesn't want to give it up. You just want to license, hey, you can only use it for this game or for this app. You're going to need that license agreement to protect you and make sure you get paid and protect your assets. Sole proprietors are one and the same with the owner, right? So if I were to open up a ice cream shop, Little Danny's Ice Cream Shop, and I was just a sole proprietor, I buy all the ice cream and I sell it, don't do anything much with it, that's me, sole proprietor. If I die, business dies. The biggest downside with sole proprietor, personal liability. So if someone gets sick eating my ice cream and I have $1 million nest egg, that person potentially could reach that nest egg and get their judgment based on that money if Little Danny's Ice Cream Shop has no money. Okay. An advantage though is the flexibility and cheap. It's cheap to start off. You really don't need to pay anything. But I think the short-term gains don't outweigh the long-term liabilities and long-term gains of perhaps filing for an entity. If you don't know what you're doing, it could be the worst thing in the world, right? You wouldn't perform your own heart surgery, would you? Right? Yeah. So, LegalZoom, they can't provide you with legal advice, and they'll tell you, we can't legally provide you with advice, but they'll give you a lot of templates. I've had some clients do that, and I've had to kind of fix the stuff, and so take it for what it's worth. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. So it's good and bad for me because it provides an alternative for my clients for cheaper. It's good for me because then when they mess up, I said it just costs them more to do it, and just invest. They get invested the money into doing it right the first time.